Hello, thank you for joining the live stream. I'm Neil from Obico and joined by our founder, Kenneth.
Hello, folks.
So we've done a couple of live streams now. This is the third one. First, we did two Q&As right after we had switched from the spaghetti detector to Obico, just to answer as many questions as anyone had. And so we're happy to answer more questions at the end of this as well, so you can just drop them into the comments. But we kind of just want to do these live streams as one, just an opportunity to get a little bit more intimate conversation that we usually get in the Discord channels. We're usually talking to the users back and forth in there, and we'll meet with some of you guys sometimes. But we figured this would be a nice way just to be able to chat with the community and get feedback, talk about new features and things that we've been working on. So in general, that's kind of the main purpose for these. And we figured we'd just get started with a little bit of news, kind of what we've been working on over the last month, and then I'll go into showing you guys a few different, maybe lesser known features of Obico and how to use them. So I guess from there, if you want to get started with some of the news, Kenneth, that would be great.
Yeah, sure. So the actually the first piece of news I wanted to share is not really about what we have done, but about what we have gone to. So I guess some of you are aware that there was a pretty significant event for 3D printing hobbyists like field. It was called MERV. So I think the name was Midwest's Red Rap Festival.
Right.
Neil, correct me if I'm wrong. But everyone call it MERV, and it sounds good. But anyway, it was actually pretty exciting for me because I think as a live stream we were talking about expecting, like anticipating this event, and was actually the event where you and I met the first time, like face to face. Surprise, surprise, COVID existed, so we started working together when there was COVID. So MERV was actually the first. I think that was the first flight I have ever taken since COVID. So yeah, it was an awesome trip. It was like, oh yeah, like it reminds me of like the old good old days when, like, you have all the kind of those kind of maker events. You went there and see those kind of like really awesome people. Except this time we actually we were lucky enough to actually get a booth to present the Obico to like the most enthusiastic members in the 3D printing hobbyist community. So we got the chance to meet, like I said, awesome people. Like I snapped a photo with Joseph Prussia. Actually, believe it or not, I grabbed a conversation at least like 10 minutes with him. He was very approachable. We talked about things and asked actually very, very challenging questions, such as like, how do you think about Bamboo Labs? Looks like they're gonna come up as a pretty tough challenger for Prussia. And then he was pretty candid about like his opinion, etc. Like we talked to other people like Joe Telling. I'm pretty sure some of you have seen him, like arguably one of the most 3D printing YouTubers, the most well-known YouTuber about 3D printing. Yeah, like the again presented the Obico's show, the live demo to a lot of people who were like, oh, we've heard of you guys. I only knew you were called the Spaghetti Detective. Didn't know you're renamed to Obico. So yeah, it was awesome. Neil, I'm pretty sure you have a lot more to actually kudos to Neil, because basically he arranged the whole trip. It's not easy, right? We set up the booths, the demo, so it was a lot of work. Neil, please chime in. I'm pretty sure you have a lot to share as well.
Yeah, no, it was a really awesome trip, and I had been to I think one maker fair event previously. I think back in 2017 or 18, and that was my first example of going anywhere that wasn't like a maker space, basically the bigger crowd than a maker space, and it wasn't just focused on 3D printing. There was a lot of awesome other projects, but it was really just awesome to really meet the core, most interested and kind of advanced 3D printing enthusiasts and see some of the projects that some of these people had come up with, mostly just really awesome open source projects. Like for example, I think one of my favorite ones was definitely the tiny or the baby belt 3D printer, which is a belt 3D printer that's about this big and you can just hold the whole thing in your hand with no problem. And that printer was built with under $99 bill of materials, almost all 3D printed parts, and just like some of these projects that people have just been working on for the past year or so, and they 2 years they come out and show off their projects. So it was really cool to see some of those projects, and also just great to meet a lot of the people in the community and learn how like welcoming and warm of a community it is. From people that have been in it for the past 10 years to people that have just gotten in it in the past year or so. So we'll definitely be back again to Goshen, Indiana for sure.
Yeah, so since I guess the world is like gradually going back to normal, so I'm pretty sure these kind of events will be more will happen more and more, and we'll enjoy more and more turnouts, and we definitely plan to go to more of those kind of events. I think next one is Earth, right? It's the East Coast.
Right.
It's similar events. We're planning on that as well. Cool. So I guess well, this is Merv, and the other things we want to share was what we have been working on in the past 1 month or so. The we actually I think the past 1 month that primarily spent on streaming, like basically building out more, like making our webcam streaming um platform a little bit better. In the timing, we chose to spend focus, actually spend most of our development resource on streaming. Was one of the reasons was that the new Raspberry Pi OS, like newer version, is called Bullseye. It's based on the Debian Bullseye version, came out with a lot of breaking changes. And then it hasn't really impacted a lot of our users yet, because like that version is so has broken so many things. I don't think Octopi has moved on to that version yet. So that means that the majority of our users who are using Octoprint are not impacted by those um, changes, like the breaking changes. So, but we see that coming. I'm pretty sure at some point, Octopi will move on to Bullseye, and we need to be ready for that. Another reason why we chose to spend a lot of time to make the streaming work better at this moment was like we started to support Clipper, but a lot of Clipper users are quite different, right? A lot of them really did not choose to use a pre-built Pi version. They just directly grab from the official uh, Raspberry Pi OS image, which the latest is already Bullseye, and then our streaming just wouldn't work for them. And we have received way more streaming problem reports from the Clipper users than from the Octoprint users, even if Clipper users currently only account for like a fraction of our Octoprint users. But we see this coming, and we are getting more and more Clipper users as well. So we want to solve the problem almost at once and for all. So the third reason was that we while we are solving those problems, we also optimize our streaming server and made it actually quite a bit more efficient. That means it cut costs on our like cloud server bills. In the the instead of like pocketing those savings, we say we want to get back to the community. So we decided to uh, not really save money. Instead, we bump up what we can offer to our the free users. So previously, free users only got a pretty not so ideal, like zero point 0.1 frame per second streaming. This is barrier streaming. It basically you get one snapshot every 10 seconds. But now, after the optimization, server optimization, we figure out we can actually we did some math and we say we can actually still sustain the server costs if we bump up the free user streaming to 5 frames per second. Um, but it's also it's throttled to a point where you can stream 30 seconds at a time, which I think is probably good enough for most users. But if you want to stream more than 30 seconds, there's a 30 seconds cooldown period in between that basically you stream 30 seconds, then you wait for 30 seconds, you stream more. And this is primarily just to prevent like abusing, because we don't want user to like, okay, let's just have the tab open there and stream forever. So that's primary why. So Neil, do you think I should demonstrate this, or you wanna do the demo a little bit later?
Yeah, if you are ready to do that, I think that'd be great. And I guess I can also just mention, I think the as part of those uh, server optimizations, the tunneling we're also able to increase a bit as well,
Ah,
right? So with that, it used to be 50 megabytes per month for the free users. Now we're able to double that, so it's now 100 megabytes to access that full Octoprint user interface when you're not on the local network.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, speaking of these optimization, we don't want we want our work to benefit the whole community, not just the free users, obviously, because especially the pro subscribers are the one who have been supporting us along the way, and they're the reasons why we're here today. So we did a few other like the service upgrade for the pro plan as well. One of them being like now the pro plan users can like have unlimited the time lapse storage, whereas the free users they're still subject to the 6 months like retention period. Basically, your time lapse video will be purged out of the server after 6 months.
Right.
Cool. So should I go into the streaming, the demoing the how the new basic streaming works?
Yeah, that sounds great.
Okay. Okay, it'll be the first time I am sharing my screen on this like live stream platform. So let me know. Can you see? Can you see this?
Yep, let me just add it to the stream here, and it
Okay.
looks pretty good to me.
Okay, great. Cool. So actually you can see this you can see my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, so let me do this first. I believe currently this user I'm testing it's basically just ender 3 in my garage. Ignore the ugly background. So yeah, this user is currently on a pro status. So the as you can see that like the as a pro user, basically the subscribers, they're getting 25 frame per second streaming. So it should like when you see things move, it should be pretty smooth. The it's not the sharpest image you can get. So now, but we're still getting about 1 mega bit per second, like bit rate for this stream. So that's the basically what the pro users are getting when it comes to webcam streaming. Now, if I change this user to a free plan user, just for demo purpose, after that I need to restart the. Oh, by the way, this is actually a uh, Clipper installation. I'm using Fluid here, not the Octoprint, but the Octoprint user has the same user experience. So I need to restart Obico for Clipper service in order to pick up the status change of the account. So I think this it has restarted. Yet now the experience switched to the free plan webcam streaming experience. Basically, rather than having 25 frames per second, the free users got 5 frames per second. Still, it's quite a bit better than the previous 0.1 frame per second streaming. And what the free users like, in order to start streaming, you need to press a play button. Again, for pro users, the stream will start automatically, whereas the free users they will need to press a play button to start. Again, this is just more for preventing the abusing. So you can see here, the it's 5 frames per second, so it's the movement's a little bit jerky here, and also you can see that the uh, bit rates that it's using is a lot lower than the pro user. Still, it's I would say it's better than the much better than before. Also one thing that I forgot to point out, the 30 seconds won't start. It doesn't start when you press the play button, because the stream usually comes in a few seconds later, and we don't want you to feel like we're cheating on you by the seconds, because 5 seconds out of 30 seconds is non-trivial. So like, if you can see that if you press this, it's still, the string has not come in. Now we're not counting down. We start to count down when the stream really comes in. I think it actually has already come in because there's a bit rate here. Hold on. I think my computer, when I'm on the this live stream, it's really stressing out my computer. So that's probably
Right. It's
why it's not even
not as easy to stream a stream of a stream.
exactly. So let's see if this time it'll work. And I guess the bandwidth pressure is quite high. I don't know why it's not. Looks like the stream will come in, but it'll take a while since I'm doing the this YouTube live streaming right now.
Right.
Okay, don't know what's going on here. But you ever seen that once, so I guess I'll just stop the demo here.
Yeah, and so I think the
But now it
kind of
works.
oh,
Sorry,
there it goes.
sorry. Yeah, so it's, you can see that the countdown just started. It's like, it was not at the time when I pressed the play button. It was the time when you really start to see the stream. So that's, I guess, something that's worth pointing out.
Right. And I think we know it's not not as good as the premium streaming, which is very bandwidth intensive to get that frame rate, but we think it's at least a decent compromise. We're open to any feedback on that. But for example, when Kenneth just homed the printer or moved the axes, if you did that with the previous stream that was 0.1 frames per second, you would probably only get one picture in that time. So at least in this, you actually do get to follow the motion of the printer as it moves. It's just a little bit jerkier than you might get from from the full frame rate streaming.
Yeah, thank you adding this. Those are important. Yeah. New like pass one or something.
Oh, sorry. I think it's my headphones cut out. Are you?
So yeah, I'm still here. Can you... Anyway, so while Neil is working on his tech, one more thing, streaming that give up. If you are you can see that have been the adaptive bit rate. So, Neil, are you back?
I think
can
I'm
still
back,
hear
but
you.
can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, I think your headphones started breaking up now.
Oh,
Right after mine did. Yeah, they said every other word. So maybe if you want to
I'll probably
swap
turn this off. Use my internal. Yeah, I'll use my internal. See here.
Of course, they both
So
break at the same time.
Yeah, of course. The equipment failure happens only when it really matters.
Chris, Dr. Fate, hopefully this is
Cool.
better now. Got a little bit of background noise, maybe from the printers, but hopefully it's not too bad here.
It's probably from my fan, because now it's because it's using the internal microphone. I guess the fan is growing right next to the microphone, so you guys have to bear with us.
Yeah, it doesn't seem too bad. We should be okay.
Okay.
Cool. So if we want, I can go ahead and show a couple of just features that the more we've talked to users, we've found that they haven't found or didn't necessarily know they were there, but were happy when we told them.
Well, actually, Neil, do you also want me to talk about the adaptive bitrate streaming? Because yeah. Okay, so I'll quickly talk about this. If you have checked our newsletter, you know that we have also been as a part of the effort to uh, optimize and like upgrade our streaming technology. We have been trying adaptive bitrate streaming. Basically, the gist of it is that if you are on like especially those when you're on a cellular network where like the bandwidth is just like a couple of orders of magnitudes lower than what you will get from a Wi-Fi. Sometimes like the bandwidth requirements for the regular streaming will be too high, so you will see the buffering warning. Some of you probably have already seen that, from time to time on your phone, that basically like the stream is not coming in because the cellular network doesn't provide enough bandwidth to for the stream to come through. So that's why we have been experimenting with adaptive bitrate streaming. We were hoping that it would be relatively straightforward to pull off. It turned out not to be the case. And that's why we're still now not sure if we want to roll it out. The problem we have run into after like actually the we should say thank you for to quite a few like actually dozens of users who actually volunteered to test to do the beta testing for us. Like one of the problems they discovered in those in the beta testing was like the code actually crashed in like at a very low rates. Like the probably 1 or 2% of users reported the crash, but it's not zero. We don't think crash should be tolerated at all. So like that's why we're hesitating. It's not obvious where the crash came from. So that was one reason, and the other reason was like what we found out was like, so our initial hope was that when the you have a low bandwidth cellular network, we can reduce the resolution, and we can make the video compression like compress more, so you see a more grainy um, stream, but at least the stream can still come in. Um, and the theory I think makes sense. The I think that's actually how, for example, Google Meets, Zoom video calls, like how they do it. As you can see that there are times when the the video comes in will become a lot grainier when for example, like all of a sudden your Wi-Fi router acts up, right? But then it'll become a lot more crispy when you got a good networking condition. So that was basically what we were hoping to achieve. But what we found out was actually because our primary the problem we were trying to solve was like when the people were on their cellular networks. It turned out that actually most of the times the cellular network, they the like the network condition is not like a linear kind of like gradually going down, right? It's either like, even if sometimes your provider tells you that you're on LTE, you barely actually can get any bytes in. That happens a lot more often than we initially expected. We initially thought that, okay, if you're on 5G, you got a really good stream, but somehow when you moved around and moved out of your 5G zone, moved into LTE zone, but you got a lot lower bandwidth, but hopefully we can still compress the video stream enough to push it in. But it looks like most of the users like either actually when either I'm on 5G is perfect, or when I go into LTE or sometimes 3G, like there's barely anything. I can't even open a web page. That means that sometimes the mobile network tells you you're on LTE, they you're actually barely connected. So that's what we found out. Like the use case that we initially hoped for wasn't that common. So that's another reason kind of push us to be like, is it really worth or like a lot more additional effort to perfect this technology and push it out? So we're still debating on this. Obviously, we want your inputs, right? If you do run into the situation pretty often, and you're like, actually, to me, it matters because when I switch between 5G, LTE, 3G, my bandwidth goes down gradually, and I want something to be in, instead of like nothing at all. So if that's you, definitely let us know. Like if you think that this will benefit you a lot, you should let us know, and then we can prioritize this feature accordingly. Does it
Definitely.
make okay? Yeah. So yeah, Neil, feel free to add more if I didn't. This is a complicated matter. So if I was too confusing or I didn't make things clear, definitely yeah, like add more things.
No, I think it made sense, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I guess it's probably similar to the way that YouTube does things too, in terms of if you have that auto setting configured, then it'll sometimes drop down to 480p, sometimes 720p or 1080, depending on how solid your connection is. Is that kind of like similar user experience, at least how it's supposed to work ideally?
Yeah, it's similar to YouTube as well. As a matter of fact, I actually tested this once I started that project, and I actually at there were a point when I'm like, okay, let me test if that theory actually is what I expected. I did notice that most of the times, even for YouTube, right? I open their app. If I got a pretty good 5G connection, I got like a full resolution, right? There's no downgrade whatsoever. However, like when I'm in a pretty shitty LTE zone, like YouTube videos don't play either. It's not like they send you a lower resolution. Yeah, looks like this is a tricky it's a tricky problem to solve.
Right. Yep. That totally makes sense. Cool. Well, I guess I can move on to the couple demos here, and then we have gotten a couple questions so far, so I'll be sure to go through this. And actually, the first question was kind of related to what I'm going to show here, so I'll show just the more we talk to users, sometimes there's still some confusion in terms of what our tunneling feature lets you do. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and I'm just going to show on the web app how to access the Octoprint tunneling. Then one of the questions that we did get was about adding the tunneling feature for Moonraker. And so, Kenneth, if you want to kind of answer that question while I kind of show this, that would be great. And I'm not sure if it shows you on your screen. It looks like your screen is still sharing in the back end here, Kenneth, which might be affecting your streaming quality. If you want to turn that off, if it's obvious to you.
No, it's definitely not sharing. No, I'm not sharing.
Okay, that's so weird. Yeah, it's like on my end, it's showing the whatever your stream must have been before, but now it's showing mine. So okay, we're
okay.
Good. Cool. You can see my screen, and surprisingly, it looks like my stream's coming in pretty good here, even though I'm streaming. And when we tested earlier, it was not looking like it was going to work this well. So with this printer, I've got with this account, I've got 2 printers linked in here. The Prusa Mini, which is printing this torture model from Clockspring 3D, and then I've got the Anycubic Viper over here. So you can access the web app, of course, when you're on the local network or away from your home. And based on talking to a lot of you, it seems like for the most part, the features in the mobile app and the web app are enough for kind of most of the things you need to do, especially when you're using the software remotely outside of your home. But of course, if there is any time where you need to either access a specific plugin within Octoprint or do anything else that you might want within Octoprint, that's when the full Octoprint tunnel, which gives you the full user interface, will be best. So it's quite similar in the mobile app and the web app. In the web app, there's just this 3-dot menu here, and if you just hit tunneling for whichever printer you want, that'll open up the full Octoprint interface, which might take a second here.
So is it usually this slow for you, Neil?
No.
Or
it's usually much quicker. I think this is definitely my my computer and the streaming. Usually it takes about 2 or 3 seconds to go through that whole process. Oh, it almost died, but looks like we got it. So from here you can access all of the features within Octoprint except for the streaming. So since you have the streaming in the web app and the mobile app, we turn off the streaming here because it's the way that Octoprint does the stream is just much more intensive. And so other than that, you can check out the terminal. You can visualize G-code. This is a pretty blank Octoprint setup, so I don't have a ton of plugins that I use with this here. But if you did need to go and grab a video from Octolapse or something like that for any reason, we've heard more and more some of the more popular reasons that people will access Octoprint when they're outside of their home are some of the plugins like the ones that allow them to turn off their printer once a print's done and some other things like that. So that's kind of some of the common use cases. It's not liking my loading this very well with the stream, but that's kind of the basics in terms of accessing the Octoprint tunnel. I kind of said we'll do the questions at the end, but it probably makes sense to go ahead and answer this question while we're here, Kenneth, if you want to take that question in terms of the Moonraker tunneling.
Yeah, totally. So the Moonraker basically it's our integration to the Clipper platform. The tunneling to Moonraker, we're still working on that. Well, actually, let me take this. So we have been prototyping the solution a little bit. We haven't really started like the production coding part of it. The reason for that is we actually in the prototypes we try to build, we run into some kind of like interesting. Basically, take a step back. So it's on our roadmap to make our Clipper integration on par with our Octoprint integration. And for now, like actually there are only 2 areas where our Clipper integration is quite a bit behind, significantly behind our Octoprint integration. The first one, surprising enough, is actually our documentation. We had actually a lot of documentation written for our Obico for Octoprint plugin, and that they're like the screenshots and description are all geared towards Octoprint. And we have started to replicate some of those, not replicate, but like the recreate some of those corresponding documents for our Clipper integration, but we're not even close. So another area is the tunneling, and so both are on our roadmap in terms of like, hey, this is what need to happen to bring our Clipper integration on par with our Octoprint integration. So obviously there's no technical problem with updating the documents or creating more documents, but there's one pretty significant technical hurdle that we have to clear before we can even start working on the tunneling to Moonraker, which is sorry, I'm getting a little bit technical here. The way that Moonraker works in conjunction with either mainsail or fluids is very different from how Octoprint works. So Octoprint, there's only one thing, one server. So you type in octopi.local or some IP address, and that's it. It's like there's no such thing as like two web servers running at the same time, or like just if you're typing octopi.local, like the Octoprint actually can run on another server. Whereas the way that Moonraker works is that Moonraker can run on a very different server, like a different Pi or a computer than where the mainsail or the fluids are running. So that will be a problem because previously what we do is like for each tunnel, we allocate a unique ID and make a DNS entry for it. So basically, like if your unique ID is, I'm just making this up, 12345, then 12345, we're gonna map 12345 dot tunnel dot obico.io to your Octoprint, and that's it, right? So basically, what we need to do is to use a tunnel to make this mapping happen. Whereas now, like it's different because, like I said, if your mainsail runs on one Pi or a computer, whereas Moonraker is on another, like we can't just use one ID. We need to use a multiple, but then like how can we use multiple for one tunnel? And that's actually the trickiest thing to resolve right now. Like we like how Moonraker architecture this thing basically like to separate the backend with the front end. But in the meantime, it definitely creates like an interesting technical challenge that we have to solve before we can actually move forward with implementing this tunneling. So I guess the gist of it is that like we are working on it. We definitely want to do it, but there's no promise right now. Just because we don't know if this technical challenge, how soon that we can figure out a solution for it, or if we can figure out a solution at all.
Got it. Yep, that makes sense. And we I guess first released the beta for Clipper a few months ago now. And we've been starting to get more and more Clipper users. So the more you guys kind of let us know that that's something important to you, then we'll definitely do our best to kind of prioritize figuring that out as well. And I guess I'll just show off a couple other features, and then I'll go and answer some of these other questions that we got. So the other one that we have gotten some different times in terms of the different features is the failure detection. Everyone's environment is very different, and so what we've been trying to do is make the failure detection and all of really the whole product work for as many people as possible without too much customization or specification specifically for our product. And so one thing that we know is the failure detection model can sometimes be too sensitive for certain situations and not sensitive enough for others. So some specific things are, if you really have an extremely messy wiring situation, it's much more likely that you'll end up with some false positives because the wires will get tagged. We've also heard some things with some very shiny surfaces or shiny filaments and things like that. So we have a pretty easy way just to tune the sensitivity of the failure detection. And so in the web app, you can easily do that by going to that same menu bar that we did before on the Anycubic Viper or another printer, and just going to the configure here. Under this configuration tab, it will only apply to the printer that you're editing at that time if you have multiple printers set up. And so here I have it on medium, but it's a bit more of a sensitive medium. So Kenneth, I don't know if you have a specific like good way to describe each kind of setting on here, or not.
Well, it's the I guess the it's probably, we can probably just go with like the explanation, like notes below the bar. So basically the default works best for most users. That's how we chose the default. Basically, we run an algorithm to compare, where this setting is, and then like how many false positives are generating and how many false negatives were generating. So the medium is the best for most users, but doesn't mean that you fall into one of those the group of most users. If that's the case, sorry, but still, and that's why we have this bar for you to adjust, right? So the usually, like, I think it's a lot of trial error, I guess, if you want to adjust this on your part. But like basically, you can expect if you move it to the maximum side, like the right hand side, you will need to expect you are getting a lot more false positives. Whereas the if but the it's definitely going to be a lot less likely for us to miss any real failures. Whereas if you move all the way to the left hand side, then your your like the alerts will be less noisy. So I guess it's more likely that if we alert you, it's just a real failure. But it'll make it more likely that we're gonna miss some of those the failures, that especially the failures when they just started. The spaghetti part is not that obvious.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a great way to explain it. And so you can, I think there's 6 maybe total settings that you can kind of experiment with along this line. And like Kenneth mentioned, it's really, if you're finding that middle ground is not working that well for you, then it's really just going to be more of kind of some experimentation with your specific setup. But just keeping in mind, the farther you go to the right, the more you'll get alerted when it might not actually be a failure, but you'll be more likely to catch anything that is actually a failure. Great. So the last thing I was just going to show was, so we have the stream for you to check out. We also have a just real easy way for you to share the stream of your print with your friend or anyone else. So I'm not sure how well it will pick up with this stream, but it might still. So actually, that's the last setting in this menu bar here. So if you just hit the share button here, then we'll generate a unique link for this printer that you can turn on and off if you don't want the link to be active at any given time. But if you copy that link and send it to your friend, then you'll basically be sharing them this screen. So it'll just be a pretty blank screen with the webcam stream and a little bit of a note just mentioning that that your friend shared this link with you. And it will be, this is, I guess, this is only for Pro. Is that correct, Kenneth?
Yes, it is only for Pro.
Right. So this is only a Pro feature. So it'll be the kind of high quality webcam stream, if you're sharing that. And, it can be great for sharing with someone that doesn't have a printer, or if you've got a friend that does have a printer, say, hey, check this out. This is what I'm making. So I think that is all the things I wanted to share here. So I will scroll back up and get back to a couple of these questions that we did not get to yet.
So I can answer the question about the updating the self-hosted server.
Yes.
So yeah, so the we this that is definitely mentioned in the server documentation alongside the FAQs. So if you click the like if you have already found our FAQs for the server setup, like either one or two menus like items up, there's a I think it's called a frequent no it's common operation task or something. So basically there lists a few things such as how you back up your database as well as how you update the server. It's quite straightforward.
I just yep, I found it. So I'll just go ahead and drop it into the
Yeah,
comments
that's probably
here.
the easiest way to do it.
Yep, and so it should be the first topic on this help doc here is upgrade Obico server. Great. Then I think the next one after that was about printing from the. Let me make sure I had it right. I think printing from the SD card in Octoprint.
Yeah, it's definitely have been on our roadmap for quite a while now. I have to admit, like this is something that we have been pushed out over and over. Like more recently, it was more the streaming. Like we were like, oh, let's spend time on the streaming because that's due as well. And once the bullseye is widely adopted, we're gonna get caught like flat-footed if we don't have that like figured out already. And then before that was obviously we spend a lot of time on Clipper. So yeah, this is some of one of the things that been pushed out. But yeah, it's still on our roadmap, and we know that quite a few users have asked for it. We definitely will get to it at some point.
Yep, absolutely. I think that may have been all of the questions we got while we were going here. If anyone has anything else, go ahead and ask now. Otherwise, we'll probably start to wrap up the stream. That's a tough name. I guess I'm not gonna.
So it looks like the one user asked a question about the detecting only the selected feature, selected area. So do you want to address that, Neil?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So yeah, so this has been brought up quite a few times. The problem is that we actually have brainstormed this not just within the team, the Obico team ourselves, but also with the people who have brought this up, right? Like the biggest problem with this is it's not hard to implement. The biggest problem with this is that we like for a lot of users the camera will drift, right? You set it up this way, but then you like accidentally bump into it, or like just because of vibration, like your camera setup, like the angle and position kind of started to change. The reason why I'm saying this is that if we let the user to select a particular area, then that particular area may drift out like completely like to a different place where you didn't intend to begin with. So what we can't figure out a good way to tell the user like the to uh basically to tell the user like, hey, you know what, or you originally selected area is now like no longer where you intended to be. Do you want to fix it? Like that sounds like if we can figure out how to do it, then I think we have a solution. But it's just not obvious for us to how to do that. Like if we can, how we can have a technology that we can alert user about it. And if we don't, guess what? That's even worse than not letting the user select the area, because the user would think that, hey, my prints are being monitored, but we're actually have been watching the wrong area. So that's just like yeah, I don't know, like the
we don't want to implement something only to backfire and shoot ourselves on the foot. Like, users saying like, why are you not watching? So that's, I guess, the biggest dilemma around this suggestion. If you have some kind of thought on how that can be done, like like practical way to implement this without like those kind of unintended consequences, definitely let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris asked about if you tunnel into Octoprint, can you untunnel after you start the print? Yes, you can. You can start the print in Octoprint and then just click the back button. It'll take you back into the Obico app. Very similar experience on the mobile app should be. And yeah, there's no issue with going back and forth. You can go back and forth as many times as you'd like.
Cool. So the next question is that the public roadmap for future developments. We actually do have some kind of roadmap. So for example, our mobile app, we're running the Kanban board for mobile app, and the Kanban board itself is actually a public. We can do the same for the server part of it. But the server part is more intertwined with like the plugin and stuff, so it becomes a little bit unmanageable. That's why we haven't brought up we haven't made the server part as a public Kanban board. But still, it's not going to be a clean roadmap. The reason why it's the case is that I'm actually not the big fan of like a very rigid roadmap, because I feel like that actually hinders our speed, right? Like for example, like the Clipper was not even on our radar, say 1 year ago. But then like when the user brought this up more and more often, I'm glad that we actually took a very agile process and say, you know what, we are hearing more and more from users. Let's like push out some of the things, such as printing from the SD card, push out those features because we think that technology change. The people are like, we didn't expect that a lot more people have started to use Clipper, and now we want we want the agility, the flexibility for us to respond to this change of the situation, but rather than trying to follow a rigid roadmap. Arguably, we can make a roadmap and then shuffle that things around as needed, but that's almost as just the same as the Kanban board that we have put out. Basically, on the Kanban board, we have the backlog, whereas you can assume that the backlog are a ordered the stories that we need to do, or order the features we want to deliver, and then when the features move into in progress, done and released, you can follow them. So that's already happening for the mobile app, and we can do that for the server as well. But don't expect this to be a very rigid, because if you check, like we have these features on the backlog today. If you check back like one week later, you may found them to be different, and that's because we've got new bugs, or like we heard other things from the users and we decided to change it.
Right. Chris said a parking lot rather than a road map. That's a
I don't know. Yeah, that's a very good like parallel.
Cool. Well, if we don't have any more questions, we're just getting on about 55 minutes here. We'll start to wrap it up, but we'll definitely do more of these live chats. One more question maybe coming in, but yeah, we'll definitely do some more. And the more you guys tell us that you want us to do these, we will. And if there's something specific that you'd like us to talk about in as a demonstration or anything like that, just let us know, and we will try to incorporate it.
To make for the web interface, is there a way to make the webcam preview larger? Okay, yeah. Well, this is also one of the things we intended to do, but have been deferred to make room for other features. As a matter of fact, I think it's we actually have a bigger plan to revamp the web interface to be closer to the mobile app, because in the past, like 6 months or so, we have spent a lot more time to optimize the user interface for the mobile app to make it more intuitive. And I think we're at the place where like the mobile app just feels like experience user interface is just better than the web app. So we plan to basically almost like duplicate what we have done in the mobile app to like the web app. As a part of it, we will also have the full screen streaming like basically copied over there as well.
Right.
Oh, the sound detection project. Yeah, unfortunately, I wouldn't say it's completely canceled. Well, the basically just for a little background. So last year we proposed a project to detect problems using sound. I was personally pretty excited about this project, but a little bit to my surprise, and well, actually not too surprising. After we sent out this like intention to run this project to the all the Obico users, we got quite a few like pretty angry responses from the users, like, hey, this is too much when it comes to like privacy. We understand why, right? Like when you point a webcam, it's already some kind of like, and we know that there's some privacy concern. That's why we built that into our term of end user terms, that we're not going to look at your webcam, right? Like, only the machine's going to look at it. We won't. But we already understand that even the webcam is a very controlled, like way to expose where your private setting is. The sound is just a lot more pervasive, right? There's no way for you to control, like, hey, pick up only the sound from my printer, not from the rest of my living room. So we understand that. So it's like we kind of don't want to get into any like legal or whatever troubles, or like maybe just put this on pause. I don't know if I'm gonna even like, for example, pursue this as a like personal projects. Maybe I will. But obviously the problem with that is I don't know if personally myself, or probably from Neil and a few other Obico team members, we can generate enough training data to make the model good enough. So that's something we're not sure. So yeah, it's projects unfortunately a little bit in the limbo status. I guess that's how I will put it.
Right. And it's like, I think despite this Amazon Alexa kind of world we live in, we also know that a lot of our users are a little bit more privacy conscious than the average person in this world. And so I think we kind of had an assumption maybe it would be a little bit easier because everyone's gotten so used to Amazon now, and we all know she's listening to everything we say. But we also really understood, the negative feedback that we got from something like that, just because, it is much more intense than pointing a webcam. It's very specific, only looking in one direction, whereas the audio is does travel a lot further.
Cool. So I guess we can answer one last question. So if there's a way to get updates for self-hosted servers. So unfortunately, the server doesn't have a mechanism to check with the repository and then pull the updates, at least not yet. And we probably don't intend to do that anytime soon, because we just have way more things than we have developers for. So the best way to get to stay updated is to go to our Discord server. So it's basically obico.io/Discord. Then we are there's a self-hosted server channel dedicated to obviously self-hosted server. And when they're pre-release, we actually do pre-release now, so that the if there's any bug incompatibility, they're gonna get picked up. So we can make announcements to the pre-release, and we can make announcements in the Discord server for the final release as well.
And I think you can maybe follow that server, right? If you want to get notified by it, so that way, if you do want to make sure you stay up to date, you can get a notification anytime there is an update. Cool. Well, I think we just got to the about hour mark. So thank you guys for chatting with us and hanging out. It was great to answer some questions from you guys, and good to have a few more people in here this time than last time. So as long as you guys kind of keep joining, we'll keep doing these streams. So thanks a lot for tuning in.
See you next time.
See you guys.